There was a time when immigrants of color were welcomed into the United States. Matter of fact, given all the emphasis that one of the presidential candidates is putting on illegal immigration, build a wall, all that kind of stuff, it's hard to fathom that back during the times of involuntary immigration, which it may be called today, otherwise known as slavery, was taking place, approximately 388,000 Africans were brought to the United States. At the time that slavery ended, let's say June 19th, 1865, when the slaves that were still in servitude in Texas were notified that Abraham Lincoln had set them free 2 years earlier, there were about 4 million slaves in the United States, descendants of that 388,000 migrants that originally were brought here over the years. And I'm one of those descendants of those involuntary immigration migrants. So when they were freed, they still were not citizens. The former slaves didn't become citizens until the 14th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, and that was on July the 9th, 1868, when Congress passed it. So migrants of color were welcomed. Matter of fact, it was legal to have those migrants of color in the United States. So what happened? Well, once they were freed, they went from being a great asset to being a great liability. Did you ever hear or read about people complaining that these migrants of color were taking white jobs? I didn't, but that's what you hear today. Now you hear they're taking black jobs. So you're telling me that the migrants now are taking the jobs of the people that are descendants of the 388,000 forced migrants that were in slavery? Sounds kind of odd. So what it really boils down to is economics. You see, the slaves, they work for free, okay? Which means no labor as far as your profit is concerned. You're not paying any paychecks. So they loved the slaves on that aspect, but they didn't love the slaves from how they were treated, because they were called property. Slaves were managed like you manage livestock. They were bred, they were broken, they were trained, and they were worked until they were no longer useful and they were disposed of. That was the system. So when I hear all this commotion about the migrants, well, one of the issues that is driving that is that 4 million slaves when slavery ended are now much more than 4 million slaves. So don't fall for all of the commotion, all of the complaints. It's just a ruse to hide the fear that the descendants of these former forced immigrants will become too many and have too much influence. So they're trying to find a way to stop the change. Because if it went from 388,000 and then it was 4 million and now it's millions more, along with other people of color that are coming in seeking opportunity, that's what's driving all of the angst and fear. It's not to protect you, it's to protect a position that some people feel they are losing in society.